I'm Cadillac Dixon. I'm the Drama Life Prison Wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. Hoping, because you gotta hold your breath for justice, girl. To see justice before all face to black. Yes, it's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, I'm coming back through on today. What was this? December the 17th, Vlogmas, day
A couple years ago,
17.
I ended up in a
Oh
motorcycle accident.
gosh.
I didn't have health insurance at the
Why
time,
is it
and now
playing that? But anyways, so I told y'all I was gonna come back and review this video from Dr. Phil, his new podcast. I don't know if it's, I think it is a podcast. But girl, okay, I started finding
drug
his video.
addiction is a
Hold on a
disease.
second, Dr. Phil. I started seeing oh gosh, he got a lot of good stuff here. Because I was watching videos, his series on personality disorders, right? And y'all know I just did that video about the narcissistic energy in my life and how it has stalled my life, and how now I want to free myself from that energy. In the past, you try to free yourself by hopefully helping the person help themselves, and it just doesn't happen. So the last resort is to free yourself by actually freeing yourself, right? So I love that type of content because it is actually revealing a lot of, hey, girl, you're not crazy. Keita was never crazy. Cadillac was never crazy. It is the world that is basically, in those situations, is the gaslighting from the people with the narcissistic energy. But in the other fight of life, in this justice system, it is those in the system that are gaslighting us to believe that we are crazy when we know our loved ones are wrongfully convicted or are sentenced unjustly or are getting punishments that they don't deserve or too harsh of punishments and stuff like that, crime not fitting the time. Like they would gaslight us to believe that, oh, y'all are just complaining, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Girl, it's a lot deeper than that surface level BS. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what day this was. I was supposed to review it then, but Dr. Phil had a video. But now that I'm looking at his whole channel, oh my gosh, let me read you some of these video topics he was talking about. And I just cannot believe that Dr. Phil is talking about this. Fixing a broken system. False confessions. That's the one that I want to review. But I think this would be a great video series to review while drawing. Y'all remember my drawing and painting and while reviewing. Okay, criminalization of DRUG use. Impact of mandatory minimums. Breaking chains, wrongful convictions. Remember, y'all told me there's no possible way that my husband, the N word, that someone specifically told me that N word probably did it. And I'm like, how? You literally know me through a avatar, like just a picture, but you know my husband's guilty? Like crazy. But y'all tell me this don't happen. And I've been researching for the longest. I've been researching my husband case, but other cases outside of just his case, because I started realizing on this journey, this is my passion, this is my purpose. It started with Marcello, but it was never supposed to just end with Marcello. This is what I'm supposed to be doing in this lifetime while I'm here on this earth. So I started learning and seeing that this is happening all the time. Like, not just, to my husband, to my one insignificant N word. Okay, but wrongful convictions, Marty's story, wrongful conviction, Valentino Dixon. Y'all know I love Valentino Dixon. So he's doing several. Dang, I wish he would cover the wrongful conviction of Marcello so he can be free, salvage some of his life. But Valentino Dixon's story, yes, mass incarceration and the system. God, Dr. Phil, you doing your thing. Nobody ever wants to talk about this stuff. Okay, so we're gonna start with the short video. I am in the Walmart parking lot because I got some coffees and such. I am tired. My granddaughter is, oh gosh, and y'all, please, I if you want to help with break my husband's wrongful conviction case, the way you can help us is to check out his petition, share it with maybe 5 people, and then you can like and share and subscribe to this channel, my TikTok, however we can get that word out. So I can get my little husband home because, girl, it is hard being a little grandmama. And I want my husband so we can be grandparents together. They stole our opportunity to be parents together. That was taken and robbed from us. And there's no way they can repay us for that, right? So the least that could be done is let us be grandparents together. But my little grandbaby is running me crazy. So I have to go and get my little cream and sugar for my little coffee that I made and then work on my content. Okay, so we're going to do, where is it? Where is it? The one that I wanted to do is about false confessions.
Let's make this super fast and
Oh,
easy. Everything Bagel
ads.
Puff Pastry Tart, which is the perfect last minute
Hold
offering
on.
for holiday guests or parties with the help of Instacart. There's no shortage of last minute. Frankly, a defense lawyer and someone that works on the police side of interrogation and training police
False
officers on interrogation,
confessions.
these are not birds of a feather usually. So the two of you together, which I love, by the way, and we've worked together before. We've been on the show, the three of us, and I found both of you provocative and informative. But how did this come about, the two of you together?
Well, I'll let Dave tell the story, but it's just been one of the most incredible partnerships. And you're right; it's not every day that a defense attorney comes along and becomes a close colleague of somebody who's dedicated to training law enforcement. So I like to think of our evolution here as a way to build bridges and come together around some really important issues: wrongful convictions. No one wants the wrong person convicted. Everybody wants the right person, right?
They, girl, they don't care if they, honestly, they don't care if they convict the wrong person. And it happens so often that we should care. Us, the good law abiding citizens, should actually care because they get it wrong so many times. Just like my husband, they said he was a black male with dreads, right? I got locks in my hair, braids and locks, right? They can say, "Oh, a black female with locks in her hair did it," and it may not be me. It could be another black female with locks in her hair, but because I fit that vague description, I can go down for it. And then another thing, the evidence doesn't have to back it. See, that's what we think. We think the evidence. Oh, they can't just accuse you and then not have no evidence. It happens all the time.
To be taken off the streets while the innocents get to go home at night. So I think that's the foundation for this. And Dave, you can tell the story of what introduced us to each other's work.
Yeah, and I think there's probably no better time to talk about this. I mean, we're in such
I'm
a
glad,
divisive
people. I am
society
so
right
glad.
now.
If y'all know me, there are people on my YouTube that know me from MySpace days when I was talking about wrongful convictions and everybody was telling me, "Girl, shut up. Who cares about that? Rap about your bag, rap about your box, this and that. Who cares about that man being wrongfully convicted, right?" Nobody cared. But now everybody's starting to talk about wrongful convictions. Wow.
Whether it's politics, criminal justice, or any kind of reform. And, the simple way to put this, and you mentioned Brendan Dassey's name earlier, like most people, I sat and watched Making a Murderer and binge watched it over a weekend several years ago. And I saw the interrogations of Brendan Dassey, and I have the wonderful opportunity to work for an organization that has a platform of teaching law enforcement. And so when I saw what happened there, I kind of recognized that if we don't say anything, that's just as good as us blessing and recognizing that technique was permissible and it's a reliable confession. I didn't believe that, so I had the chance to reach out to Laura and some others involved in the case, and From there, I realized that we're really not on two different sides of the same argument.
False confessions lead to wrongful convictions. I got videos about that too. That wrongful convictions start with wrongful arrest, and wrongful arrests start with our officers.
Really on the same one. We're looking to make sure law enforcement has effective tools to solve cases and protect public safety. And I think we've actually seen more that we have in common than we actually have apart throughout this partnership.
Well, I think you do too. And I said some of this when we've talked before, but I really worry sometimes about the government and, in this situation, prosecutors who do become abusive. I mean that at several different levels, but as I've said before, I think they forget what their job is, and their job is to seek justice, not a conviction. I think sometimes.
Correct. Did y'all hear him? Their job is to seek justice and not a conviction. The justice system is about right and wrong, and it's about crime and punishment. Crime being done, person that committed crime being punished. Out of all my research, do you know when they get it wrong, when they arrest the wrong person, do you know that is justice not done for the victim? And there's even a case where the victim herself, she said she didn't feel right about the person that she named in her, case. And the only reason she named him was because someone was like, "Are you sure it couldn't be him? Like, you sure it's not him?" And she went along with it, but she always felt like bad about it or whatever. And when they found out that it wasn't him, and this is decades and decades long later, because it takes years. One of the shortest, like they show Valentino Dixon. Valentino Dixon did 27 years wrongfully in prison for something he did not do. Kevin Strickland did 42 years wrongfully in prison for something he did not do. Mr. Wash did 21 years in prison wrongfully for something he did not do. So when you lock up the wrong person, the person that should be locked up is still on the street committing more crimes. That's how, this is where you need to care. Chiming in, this is where you should care, because then that means that person is still in your community, still committing crimes, and an innocent person that was committing no crimes is behind bars in their place. How does that keep us safe? How? But the shortest time you finna get this overturned is no less than 10 years. But baby, I'm on 21 years of fighting for my husband's freedom.
Sometimes they get into a case and they get involved ego-wise and time-wise and
They're
career-wise.
just trying to close that
They
case
get bought
and
in
get that
and
conviction.
they go after a conviction
Yeah.
as opposed to a just conviction.
Even when you researching it and the stuff ain't lining up, you ain't got no evidence, they still be trying to prosecute you. They charged my husband with a weapon that they claim hearsay was there, could not recover, didn't find. But because they allege somebody said a weapon was there, they charged him with a weapon. Can't find a weapon, no evidence of weapon, no fingerprints, no GSR, no nothing tangible. And when you're looking through the evidence, you're researching the case, and you just seeing how there's no way this could have happened like this. There's no way that, and the arresting officer in my husband's case changed the scene of the crime. And he also, when the witnesses came forward that allege that my husband robbed them, right? When they wrote that they had been robbed of a certain amount of money, they had my husband, they checked his person, and he had a whole different amount of money. The officer returned their sworn affidavits and said, and it's crossed out and it came up in court. Why is the first amount crossed out? He told them to cross it out and write in how much my husband had. That way, the money could align. It's like a puzzle piece. And you know how you got the perfect puzzle piece and it actually fits, and then you don't have the right puzzle piece and you're trying to jam it in a spot. That's what they basically do. Your evidence is showing that this can't be that person. And unfortunately, you have to get back out there and keep researching this crime until you find the right person. But so many times they get that person and they stuck on that person going down for it.
as opposed to a just conviction.
Yes.
So they'll do virtually anything to get that conviction once they start down that path, whether it's just or not. And
Yep.
I can't believe that some of these prosecutors don't know when they've gone past the line and say,
You can't believe it because they do know. They know what they're doing. But this is a system that we don't oversee. So they cut corners on the daily, right? But nobody oversees it. So who are they? Who? It's like when Sheree said, "Who gonna check me, boo? Who gonna check them? Because we not even checking them."
I've taken liberties here in getting a confession. I've taken liberties here in getting someone to say something that a reasonable, rational interrogation in the bright light of day with proper support in place would never have been given. Is that a fair statement?
Yep, Chicago tortured. What was I can't remember the part of torture justice. I believe that's the name of his organization, where they were forcing confessions of individuals. That's exactly what he, and I have a story about that. If I can find that, Dual Thomas, I will link that in the description box. Forced into confessing for a crime that he did not do.
Statement, or am I being too critical?
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile.
Sorry, y'all.
It's the holidays, and the big wireless companies are busy spending.
Is that a fair statement, or am I being too critical?
I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. I mean, I think that, tunnel vision is a real thing that sets in.
I am so surprised they telling the God honest, bold face, shame the devil, tell the truth. Girl, everything have to usually be sugar coated and covered up. Like, I can't believe they sit up here telling the truth.
Dr. Phil, when you are in, the position of prosecuting somebody, of telling a story about what it is they did, I think it can be real easy for that tunnel vision to set in, and make no mistake, right? I mean, all of us are.
I believe wrongful convictions are on purpose. I believe they're wrongfully purposeful convictions. They're wrongfully convicting a person, but they're purposely wrongfully convicting them most times. A real, true wrongful conviction is based off of mere human error. But it's not off of this willing and dealing. It's not off of forced confessions. It's not off of, if you talk, we'll give you less time for your role in this when you actually did the crime. But we'll give you less time if you just say that person that really didn't have nothing to do with it did it.
Vulnerable to that. All of us get wedded to our own narratives. There's no question about that. And that's why I think this partnership that Dave and I have forged has been so incredibly valuable, because we can serve as checks on each other. We can bounce ideas off each other. Am I getting too much, in my own place of tunnel vision?
Oh, and then also he's over the training of the officers. I love that as well, because, no, I'm sorry, she is. He's the defense lawyer. But the thing is, once you are brought up on charges, a lot of times they don't care about investigate. There was really no investigation done in my husband's case at all. If anybody had investigated anything, you would have known that he didn't commit the crime. And to be honest, y'all, the crime didn't even happen. This is a fabricated crime. Fabricated crime. That is why there is no evidence, because it never happened. But once that officer wrote that up, they had to back it up. They will back it up all the way up the court. So it's going to go from the law enforcement. Then it's going to go to the prosecutor. They going to back that up. Then it's going to go to the judge. He going to back that up. He going to do whatever the jury, whatever the jury go with. And the jury does not hear all sides of the case. Many times there are things taken out, deleted. Y'all know I talk about having back in the day, I'm a little older, when we had them road maps. Now let's say you went to the convenience store, you pick up a map, you're trying to get from here to wherever, right? But somebody has cut holes into your map. Are you going to get to the right destination? You could, or you couldn't. You might not, right? So with holes in a case, does that mean they're going to get to the correct verdict? Maybe the holes that are cut in the case are purposeful holes so that you can arrive to the verdict that they want you to arrive to. All of that's too much for justice to actually be being served, right? True justice, you don't need to manipulate. True justice needs no manipulation.
Here, right? So those are the conversations we have all the time that are so useful as we think about moving forward.
Right. You mentioned, Dr. Phil, the prosecutor perspective here, and I think it's important to see how that trickles down to the detective. Right. I like what you said. Their goal is to seek justice, not a conviction. And when we look at the interview or the interrogation,
they gonna push it.
The goal should
If they
be, how do I
officers
obtain
arrest,
actionable?
they gonna push it through. They hardly drop anything. They gonna try to push it through. If that officer arrests that person.
Intelligence versus a confession, and it's that mindset shift of let's get rid of this presumption of guilt, and instead let's enter a conversation with the goal of let me obtain as much.
And it's not even, y'all love the law and justice, right? It's not a presumption of guilt. You are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So I liken that to bowling, right? Bowling pins, right? Okay. You may have knocked down one bowling pin. You prove one aspect. You haven't knocked down all the bowling pins, so I'm still innocent. Okay, you bowl again. You knock down 3, 4, 5 pins, right? But you didn't knock all the pins down. There's still some reasonable doubt there. I am still innocent. I am not guilty until you knock all the pins down. And there's no possible way, beyond a reasonable doubt, anybody but myself committed that alleged crime. That is how it's supposed to work. But they do it the complete opposite. You come in, they already got you marked as guilty.
Information as possible so that we can further investigate. But we've got this kind of CSI Law and Order effect where everybody thinks the goal of every conversation is to get the I did it, and in fact that promotes the tunnel vision that Laura just spoke about.
Yeah, I'm always concerned when you look at the evidence and you see there are interrogation methods that are long embraced and used by probably the vast majority of interrogators. They include certain things such as lying to a suspect, misrepresenting evidence, things that have been constitutionally protected in many ways. Those same things are used with sophisticated, intelligent suspects, all the way down to those that are intellectually challenged. And when we look at the number,
and they have also did that to underage people when their parents were not around.
Of false confessions that lead to wrongful convictions, it goes up dramatically when you use those techniques with those that are less equipped to recognize and fend them off versus those that are equipped to recognize.
And also let's put in the ones that economically cannot afford defense, because those that can afford defense usually get a better shake at this justice thing, right? That we're supposed to be afforded just because we're citizens, right? But
and fend them off, which tells you that it's not a level playing field.
It's not.
If you have someone that's
It
got an 80
this is
IQ and
way
no
off
support
a
system,
level.
and you
It ain't
use
even
those
close to
techniques,
level.
you're going to get 2, 3, 4 times as many false confessions as you do with a sophisticated suspect. So they have to know that they have tipped the playing field.
Well, I agree completely, and I think when you meant the first thing you mentioned, Dr. Phil, is if there's one kind of technique or traditional training, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And
Oh,
when you think
wow.
about investigators they're going to talk to a witness, a victim, a potential suspect, regardless of age, or all the other vulnerabilities that could make risk factors. If they're only trained in one technique, that's the only thing they're going to use. And we like to look back, and instead of always faulting the officer, is what tools were they given in the first place to be successful? And what we're seeing now are things like trauma-informed interviewing to recognize people that have been exposed to trauma, how that impacts their memory and their recall. We're looking at the social science of, when we say juvenile or youth, now we're looking at upwards towards the age of 25, not traditionally 18.
Thank you. My husband was wrongfully arrested at 19. The judge said he wanted to give him life, but he will have a second chance at life. He's going to be lenient on him and only give him 40 years at 19 years old. And y'all know on my page, I did read his jury trial, and I read his verdict, which was really hard. I read it around the anniversary of his verdict this past year. And he was saying that this is really difficult because the time in his life, he's so young that his whole life could be different. He could be reformed. So this is what they're coming back to now, where he just said the mind is not fully developed until they are in their mid-20s. So those that are 19, 20, 21, their minds are not fully developed, and they could be rehabilitated if they tried to rehabilitate them. So many of them, they just sentence to life, to life, to life. And Florida has no parole, so you basically have no other chance. Life means life. Life means life. So though I guess that is kind of being lenient that they only gave my husband 40 years rather than life, but I guess we'll be together once we're 60 something years old. But he could have been rehabilitated, even though he didn't do the crime. But since you think he did the crime, nobody was hurt, nobody was powed, nobody was outed, nothing. Why did you give him 40 years? They asked that he just have 6 months of boot camp. Marcello could have easily been given a second chance, though he was never given the first chance. But no, they would rather just throw him away. Let's toss him away. And you cause more detriment by tossing him away because he could have been an asset to the community. He could have been a father to his child. I wouldn't be so shell-shocked by being a single mother for all these years, barely making it. I wouldn't have had to go through that. Our daughter wouldn't have had to go through all the emotional distress that she went through behind her father being incarcerated. And incarcerated wrongfully on top of that. And this is the thing, the prisons here, the system here in Florida is to critical capacity. And I'm in a lot of advocating groups, and I'm hearing this in other states as well, right? So you already got enough folks that actually are, guilty of their crimes. And even when you are guilty of your crime, you still need to be tried correctly, sentenced correctly, right? Because it's a lot of over sentencing. It's a lot of, if your skin is brown like mine, you get more time for the same crime. That's not cool. Equal time, equal crime, right? But they don't always see it like that. But that judge said, no, I will not. He said, if this was my son, if Marcello was my son, I too would want somebody to have mercy on him. But the truth is, if Marcello was not stopped that day, these two alleged victims would have been illed, like outed, illed. And I'm like, how? They weren't even touched. They weren't ill. They weren't hurt. They weren't nothing. The money that they alleged was robbed from them didn't line up. They forging these documents. Well, I'm sorry. They changing sworn statements, documents. They obstructing the security cameras. They doing too much to cover this. But you so sure that they would have been illed? How? The officer changing the scene of the crime. Then that officer comes up later in another trial, just a couple of years later, of wrongfully over outing a suspect and alleged to be doing some of the same alleged things that they allege Marcello did. So how do we know that guy wasn't wrongfully accused as well? We don't know. Same officer. How could we know?
Towards the age of 25, not traditionally 18. And I think the more we know that we can educate investigators on, they want to do the.
Marcello would have gotten a few years, even if he was wrongfully convicted. But this long, we're coming up on 22 years. I have been fighting for 22 years. I have been with him for 22 years. We raised our daughter through prison visits. Y'all know how beautiful and lovely that was? For him to miss every goddamn thing in her life. Everything. First words, first step, high school graduation, kindergarten graduation, college graduation, tech school graduation, birth of our grandchild. He missed our granddaughter's first step, her first words. He's missed so much. And he won't be free till our 1-year-old granddaughter is almost, about 17? That's our justice system. They threw him away.
Right thing, but we need to provide them the tools to do so.
I mean, I think that's one of the most important things that you're doing, Dave, and that we're doing in partnership. The amazing thing is, I think most people don't know that police are allowed to lie to kids during interrogation.
Most people don't know ish about this system. They just trust it blindly and just hope that they know in their back that they are doing the right thing to keep us safe. And they really don't know what's really happening behind closed doors or behind closed gates or behind closed bars.
Much less that police have been trained to do just that. This is being taught in all 50 states to our police officers, right, to our law enforcement that's out there on the streets. They're being taught to use these techniques. And, the history here is fascinating to me,
and
these techniques.
Beyond those false beliefs, that's what make you go to trial, because you believe in your rights. You believe you had a right for this and a right for that. And then you be sitting back like, huh? Like, what happened? I thought I had the right. Like, I had the right. Like, what are you doing? You're violating my rights. And then that's when your eyes are open. Don't feel bad, because that's how my eyes were open when they wrongfully took my husband. I believed in this system. I no longer do, though.
In which we deceive and manipulate people during interrogation. These techniques were invented way back in the 1940s and 1950s, and they have gone untouched. They are still in use today.
Anytime we try to make that's what criminal justice reform means. And when anybody says we need criminal justice reform, people automatically get combative. No, we don't. They shouldn't have did what they did. How do you... Okay. Reform means that there's something wrong and we need to change it to be better. Y'all know I always like analogies. So let's say it was a roller coaster and the roller coaster took off and every now and then 5 passengers didn't come back, right? We would demand and we would not let anybody else go on that ride until that was reformed and fixed and working properly. But the system will let people go on this ride almost every other day. And we're losing a lot of people to this ride.
now that DNA has been invented, we're realizing that
Mm-hmm.
people are falsely confessing due to this manipulation so much more often than anyone would ever have thought. So we're at this moment now of realization, thanks to DNA technology, that these old, outdated techniques, it's time to get rid of them and do something new.
You got too many innocent people in prison. All right, y'all. That's the first one. Yes, Dr. Phil.
I was really taken a
Yes, Dr. Phil. I really respect you for that one. But I'm gonna go ahead and go get my coffee. Okay. These ads won't shut off. Y'all know YouTube playing a whole bunch of dirt ads. Like it'd be real hard to watch now. But I guess that's because they trying to press everybody into getting their premium YouTube. But all right, guys, I'm going to go get my cream and whatever else I need for my coffee. If my grandbaby's still up, I guess I'll rock her to sleep. My girl, To a Woman's Heart, is going to be coming on real soon on TikTok Live. I love her. So maybe if grandbaby is asleep, my plans is to clean up and then finish working on her project Reach the World. Y'all know I'm an artist and I use my art form, all of my art forms to get through all of my dark storms. I have made so much artwork about wrongful convictions, about the stuff that happens to the family when somebody is incarcerated, and all of that. I do that all the time. I have rap songs, I got poetry, storybooks. I'm an illustrator, I'm an artist, I'm a rapper, I'm a spoken word poet, I'm a cosmetologist. I use all of those different talents and gifts from God because this is my purpose. Justice is my purpose, to break not only just my husband's story, but just to let y'all know that this is happening because my husband's not the first to be wrongfully incarcerated. And because we do not want to fix this system, he is not going to be the last. All right, guys. With that said, hiss your girl Cadillac. Thank you, guys.